the killing of the secondary market is the biggest mistake the movie industry ever did. While they were also putting themselves in a position with one of the biggest loss leaders of all time with the streaming services.
And the numbers never made sense.
Yeah, no.
I mean, why would you kill it, you know? What was the point in it?
I don't know. I wish I had the right answer. Again, they had this delusion that they could have their own Netflix and it was going to work out that way, and this was going to be money in the bank somehow. And when I said the same thing about all the other streaming services, I said the Warner Brothers, the HBOMax was the only one that was priced right? Because at least they were priced in a sense that if they released, because at that point they were releasing roughly basically what you could consider 2 theatrical style releases a year, especially during COVID. Yeah. So if you sit down and figure your customers that are watching all that old stuff, you're not really making anything off of anyway, but it is still generating interest in subscribers. But the main thing is, like I said, I used Wonder Woman 84 as an example. Like all the people that watched Wonder Woman 84 on HBO Max, basically that Christmas when it came out, was no different than that many people going out and buying the Blu-ray or the DVD. Right? Like that's almost the same amount of revenue they probably would have seen at the end of the day. So in their situation, and that just tells you that all these streaming services are priced way too low. Mm-hmm. They're all loss leaders. And you're right, Valiant.
And they're all raising prices.
They took what used to be a 3 to 5 year window of a life of a film and shrunk it down to next to nothing. Because there's another
45 to 60 days.
Well, there's another point there too, and I think you were the one who told me about this, Valiant, where basically, from what I've been told, is that if they decide to move a movie out of the theaters before the 35-day window and put it on video on demand, i.e. recently like Renfield, Pope's Exorcist, some of these Puss in Boots, they basically are forfeiting their extra split. So what I'm saying is, so like when a movie opens, they get anywhere from 60% or whatever more of the box office the opening weekend, and then it goes down to 50% from there. Sometimes the bigger studios can finagle more than that.
I think
maybe it wasn't you that told me this, but like basically from what I've heard now is if they keep the movie in for more than 45 days, when they get their payout at the end of the run, they get the extra percentage they had at the beginning. If they pull a movie before that day, then they forfeit that and they basically get 50-50 across the board. Or whatever.
Well, it's like 50-50.
It's actually less than that once you get to the end, but they forfeited all their bonuses at the front end, is what I'm saying.
There's all the way that, and again, folks out there watching, I'm not making this up. We're not making this up. This comes from financial earnings reports, publicly available earnings reports, and statements made by people like Adam.
I was saying, you can explain it better than me. But you get what I'm saying.
I mean, this kind of stuff comes from Adam Aron, who is the CEO of the largest theater chain in the world, AMC. And at least one that's not owned by a state government. Let me put it that way. Like China. So the point is that he made it very clear that when movies do a shortened window, they get cut. And so when these studios sign up these days for, okay, we need to book an exhibition slot for, May 5th, Guardians of the Galaxy, whatever the case. And we want it in theaters. We want PLF screens for at least 2 weeks, all these other kind of stipulations. There's terms in the contract now because theaters are very, very, very wise to this. They know what's going on, especially with streaming. So they're putting terms in contracts that basically say that if you pull this, you have tranches. If you pull this after 17 days, like in the case that Universal does sometimes, like they do with Puss in Boots, right? You're not going to get, we agreed to 55% of the domestic box office, right? They get a much lower percentage internationally, not including China. They usually get around 40% nowadays internationally. Let's say they get 55% of the U.S. box office. Oh, you pulled it after 17 days and you put it on your streaming service, we're cutting you to 35. It's a hard cut. Like we could see it in the data during 2021 when Jason Kilar and Project Popcorn with Warner Media was putting everything day and date onto HBOMax. The rentals coming out of AMC on the quarterly reports for like the whole year were in the mid to upper 30s. They're usually in the mid 50s, like clockwork. Set your watch by it. They're like 52, 53, 54%. That's the way it was all the way up till 2019. Then all of a sudden, 2021, they're like in the mid to upper 30s in the domestic rentals. And that was largely because of what HBO was doing. They were taking massive pay cuts on rental agreements from theaters. They still cut the pay if you do that at 30 days, although they obviously don't do as much as if you do a day and date. They do the same thing at 17 days, although not as much as if you do it day and date. And, again, so on and so forth. This is why the 45-day window thing became a marker, because this is what companies like AMC and Cinemark and Cineworld and Marcus Theaters and all these guys are using as kind of a marker as far as, okay, well, if you keep it in for 45 days, you're going to get this. Now, if you want to be a Top Gun Maverick, you want to leave your movie alone and have a 60 to 90 day exclusive theatrical run, and then maybe another month or two before it goes to physical sales or PVOD, another couple of months after that before it goes to streaming, guess what? You get more. Theaters pay for exclusivity. They do not pay to share your stuff with your proprietary streaming service, or to have shortened windows, or to go to physical or PVOD within 17 days or whatever. That's just not the way it works. So no, that's all factual. That's actually how the industry is behaving now. This is according to AMC. This is according to the National Association of Theater Owners, NATOonline.org. I mean, this is how they do it. So this is why we judge things differently. If a movie gets pulled right away, like Puss in Boots is always a terrible example, because that movie somehow continued to do gangbusters box office numbers after they pulled the exclusivity after 17 days. Universal had to be kicking themselves for doing that, because they took a huge pay cut from the theaters on Puss in Boots for doing what they did, but then they sold so much on PVOD. It was the most bizarre thing, but that's kind of a one-off. So anyway, I'm sorry.
Okay, so let me ask a question then, because I have never understood why it is that the streaming services do not offer some sort of premium level that would then give consumers access to things that are usually on the extra options and special features for Blu-rays and DVDs. I have never understood, as easy as that type of content is to produce and create, why that is exclusive to physical media when streamers could just charge far more per account and thereby lift their revenues. Am I missing something on why they don't do that?
Burnett has said that basically for the same reasons, is because it costs too much and there's not enough people interested in it. For every me and you pro that love that kind of stuff, there's 24 people who don't give a crap.
Gotcha. Well, I guess my thought on that is, if you charged significantly more, that's sort of the whale idea, right? And I'm into the Stewie territory. Whale. But, the whale territory of charge those consumers who are very interested, the highest end consumers who are willing to pay, charge them a ton and make some money off this thing. You've already got it for the physical media anyway. It's literally just sitting there.
And that's where they've screwed themselves, is the physical media. Go ahead, Steve.
I was going to say quickly, I was going to throw in one of my normal jokes here, but didn't they already do that with Galaxy's Edge in the hotel?
That's a great point.
Look
at all the special features.
Do you want a $5,000 shot of something I don't know how to say?
Disney has pretty much shut down their home video department almost altogether, right? They release a few of the newer films, and just very rarely have they released some of the classics. In fact, you could get Cinderella on 4K only through the Disney Movie Club till October. So they're limiting their audience as it is, but the audience you're talking about has moved over to the boutique labels and stuff like that. Disney would be smart if they would either just do their own thing or get with Criterion or something like that, who they've always had a really good relationship with. And I know a ton of people who would pay out the ass for a Criterion Collection Sleeping Beauty set, or a Criterion Collection, to insert your Disney classic film here, 4 discs spread across 4K.
Yeah.
The whole shebang, and they used to put in a lot of work into these. Disney was one of the front runners when it came to Laserdisc, DVD, and Blu-ray. But when it came to 4K, they just decided, no, we're good. We're stopping there, and we're going to stick to the streaming thing. And even Robert Burnett has complained about how they don't even make, his really excellent documentary on Tron available and stuff like that. He don't care about getting paid. He just wants people to see it. Right?
That's the other thing that's interesting.
Yeah.
The other interesting thing is that for decades, they have re-released old content under the understanding that technology continued to improve, and therefore, you went from VHS to DVD to Blu-ray, et cetera, et cetera. You went from 1080p to 4K. Now we've reached the point where technology really can't go much farther because your eyes can't go any farther. I don't think 8K is really even a realistic option.
It'll never catch on outside of maybe gaming at best. Yeah.
Right. Which means then that cycle has come to an end. It's like Moore's law has ceased in terms of visual display simply because we can't go any farther biologically. So that's interesting to me that ability to generate revenue is out.
But there's this whole thing right here, and I'm going to go back to the Disney Vault. We all know about the Disney Vault collection. Remember, limited time, you can get one of the classic films. Why haven't they done the Disney Vault collection and go by year and release a 4K bundle of, let's say, their top movies of that year or of the decade, and just make it a box set? And then you can throw in all those extras, bloopers, cell animations, all that stuff. Like they used to do stuff like this, and now it's like, what's your souvenir? Well, I paid $12 for a spork from Galaxy's Edge because they took them all away because people were stealing them. That's all I got now.
But I got the $500 popcorn bucket.
Renegade.